Hi everyone, today I'll be presenting on how caffeine affects the brain and the body. Imagine starting your day without coffee, soda, or an energy drink. For many of us, that's hard to picture, right? Caffeine has become a daily habit that helps us wake up, focus, and push through the day, whether it's for early class, a long drive, or a night shift. According to Johns Hopkins Medicine, about 85% of Americans consume caffeine every single day. That means most of us are affected by it, whether we realize it or not. Today, I want to explain how caffeine affects both the brain and the body, how it works chemically, and how it affects our sleep and our energy. Also, what research says about using it safely. By the end, you'll see that caffeine isn't just a morning pick-me-up. It's something that literally changes your brain and body function. Let's start by looking at what caffeine actually does inside the brain. Caffeine works by blocking adenosine receptors in the brain. Now, adenosine is the neurotransmitter that tells your body, hey, it's time to rest. When caffeine blocks those receptors, your brain never gets that message, so you stay alert and awake. That's why 1 cup of coffee can make you feel so energized. But that's not all. When adenosine is blocked, other chemicals like dopamine and norepinephrine become more active. Those are the same chemical responses for improving focus, motivation, and even mood. Caffeine also stays in your system for a while. Its half-life is around 5 hours, which means that if you drink 1 cup of coffee at 3 p.m., half of it is still in your system around 8 p.m. That's why the harmless cappuccino in the afternoon can come back and haunt you when you're trying to fall asleep. In small doses, caffeine can boost your attention, reaction time, and mental energy. But in larger amounts, it can make you feel jittery, anxious, or keep you up at night. And over time, your body builds up a tolerance. So that same cup of coffee that used to wake you up can eventually stop having the same effect. So if you try to quit suddenly, that means that you could get headaches, feel tired, or even be a little bit irritable for the few days you try and stop the caffeine. So we've seen how caffeine can affect your brain's chemistry. Now let's look at what it does for the rest of your body. The first thing that caffeine does is affect your heart and your hormones. Because it's a stimulant, it temporarily rises your heart rate and your blood pressure. It also increases adrenaline, which is your fight or flight hormone, so that gives you that quick boost of energy. This is why you might feel more awake or even a little bit shaky once you have your energy drink. Your body is literally in a mild stress response. But the biggest system that caffeine affects is sleep. Because it lingers for a long period of time, even 1 cup of coffee in the afternoon can delay how you fall asleep and how deep you actually sleep. So even if you have a cup of coffee around 2 or 3 p.m., it can still be in your system around 10. So they recommend that when you want to go to sleep, have your last cup of coffee at least 6 to 8 hours before that. Now let's talk about metabolism and performance. Caffeine slightly increases your metabolic rate, meaning you burn calories a little faster, and it can improve endurance during exercise. That's why athletes often use small doses before workouts. But if it's not replaceable for proper nutrition and sleep. And how it affects you depends on your genetics, your body type, and your tolerance. So now that we've talked about how caffeine affects both the brain and the body, let's see what we can do to use it a little bit more wisely. Let's start with the good news. When you use caffeine in moderation, about 200 to 400 milligrams a day, caffeine can boost alertness, focus, and even lower the risk of certain health conditions. That's roughly 2 to 4 cups of coffee. It can be especially helpful for students trying to pull long study sessions, drivers staying alert on the road, and night shift workers trying to stay focused. But caffeine isn't risk-free. Too much can cause anxiety, rapid heart rate, stomach upset, and insomnia. So people who are more sensitive to it can experience things like anxiety disorder, or it can also trigger struggling to fall asleep. To use caffeine responsibly, think of a few key strategies. Keep it under 400 milligrams a day. Try to drink it earlier in the day, and also stay hydrated. Taking an occasional caffeine-free day can also help boost your body's way of resetting the tolerance, so you can lower your tolerance. In other words, caffeine can be great for focus and energy, but timing and moderation makes all the difference. Let's wrap this up. Today we learned about how caffeine affects both the brain and the body, and how we can use it wisely. First, it blocks adenosine receptors in the brain to help us stay awake. Second, it affects heart rate, blood pressure, sleep, and metabolism. And third, it has both benefits and risks depending on how much we consume and when we consume it. The next time you reach for your cup of coffee or an energy drink, remember, you're not just chasing an energy boost. You're changing how your brain and your body function. Use caffeine like a tool, not a habit, and it can work in your favor. Thank you.